So one of the things that really bothers me at the moment with social media fitness is this: if you're not doing X, Y, and Z, if you're not doing the training that I'm doing, you're missing out. You're doing it incorrectly, you're doing it wrong. And it's this concept called othering, basically creating this social dynamic of us versus them. Are you in the team? Are you in the club? Are you doing the training that I'm doing? Are you doing the things that I'm doing, the exercises? Or are you not? Are you functional or are you not? And it's just not quite that linear. The reason I bring this up is that this year I've kind of departed from my usual way of training. Instead, I've just been mashing some different ideas and methods together to see what fits. And I think I might have found one of the missing pieces. I just realized watching that clip back that looked like fucking Dora the Explorer with my backpack on and the camera angle. And that missing element, doing things quickly. And I don't mean trying to get through your training as quickly as possible. I mean the intention of trying to move as quickly as possible. When we think about how strong we are, we're thinking how much force can we produce in any given exercise? And that equation for force is crucially two important things. It's mass times acceleration. Now, when we think in a traditional strength training setting, we're just focused on how much mass can we add to the exercise? How heavy can we make it to challenge ourselves to get stronger? But we're kind of missing out on that little A element. So multiplier, we can also increase the speed in which we can move those movements. Well, that should increase our maximum force output. And this isn't even considering the other great benefits from improved application to your sport, improved tissue quality, and many more. Now, this isn't exactly anything new. It's been around really since the 60s and 70s. People like Dr. Yuri Verkhoshansky, pioneering what is modern day strength conditioning and really inventing a lot of what we now call plyometrics in a way to make athletes more explosive, more powerful for the sport that they do. The only problem is I've not done any of it. And this is part of the problem of being in your own bubble. Speaking for myself here, I've done a lot of slow, grindy strength stuff, bodybuilding kind of things, done a lot of static skills, done handstands. And for the lower body, it's been a lot of stretching, a lot of flexibility work. And that's not to say that stretching will stop you from being explosive, but we're just missing a whole other side of the coin. So what exactly have I been doing? Which is kind of the important question. And I'm definitely not an expert here because it's just kind of outside of my realm of knowledge. So instead, I thought I'd reach out to somebody, ask him some questions about how to integrate some more of this sort of plyometric explosive training. It's the advice that I'm going to follow for the next few months, and if you want to give it a go, to help you out.
For a lot of people, strength training is probably most of their training. You mentioned there's an aerobic component, a speed and agility component. Is there anything else that people are missing?
A big part of how I try to explain it to people, it's like, it's not that there's not this immense value in hypertrophy training or bodybuilding principles and things like that, but it's just that every other component of fitness and every other style of training has just as much benefit to it. I reckon you are doing so well if you just have a regular strength/hypertrophy routine and you just throw in 3 10 to 15 minute plyometric sessions a week, done consistently over a period of 6 to 9, ideally 12 months or longer. That is going to deliver you amazing gains in terms of your tendon remodeling, genuinely walking along and feeling the spring in your step.
And when you say plyometrics, what exactly does that mean? I can easily see people jumping straight to like depth jumps, weighted jumps, but I've made enough mistakes in the past to know that that probably isn't smart.
Go too hard on day one in the gym. It's like, no one's going to just put 200 kilos on the bar. You know what I mean? But you can just jump as hard as possible on day one. Like, a lot of people don't have that self-control. Most people, why plyometrics don't work out for them, they give themselves shin splints in 1 week and then they're like, maybe this isn't for me. Plyometrics, technically, super high velocity movements, very small amount of ground contacts. We're often more concerned with the lower body because that's where all our big tendons are that are really efficient for that store and release. We've got 3 major variations of plyometrics. Again, this is all from Matt Watson because a lot of people, even in the research, there is not consistent terminology used. So you've got leaping, which is jumping and landing continuously off of both legs. And then you have bounding, which is jumping off a single leg, but switching legs each rep. And then you have hopping, which is continuous jumping and landing off of the one leg. And that is like the gold standard. If you can get someone repeatedly jumping and landing off that same leg and it doesn't look like a dog's breakfast, that is like quite an athletic person in my opinion. But initially it's leaping, where you're going to be able to explore higher volumes, higher intensities, and higher amounts of variation early on. And the main thing is just like finding that medium intensity, like crescendo leaps, where I'm like, over a set of 10, I want you to do a leap where you barely leave the ground on the first rep, but then by the end of the set, you're actually leaping quite intensely, and try to make that crescendo as smooth as possible, because it's those middle reps from 4 to 6, that true medium intensity. That's what I try to push on a lot of people when they're embracing this plyometric journey.
What I love about this is it's such a low-tech solution. You need no equipment, and with the amount of time that's invested, it's basically an extended warm-up. I mean, most of the time I actually just end up doing this when I'm walking the dog. And I'm not going to become a world-class athlete from doing this. You know, I've still got the same goals, the same ambitions, but it's just about becoming a more well-rounded athlete. Who knows, I might even start running at some point. Anyway, here are the sets and reps. I'm just about to do a session now. This is kind of Angus's recommendation.
A classic intro session for me would be 4 sets of leaping, starting out 1 to 2 of those sets in the lighter intensity, 3rd and 4th set, medium tier, maybe even going up to something that's like quite intense, leaping as hard as possible by that 4th set. And that's typically 4 sets of 10. And then I will typically do 4 to 6 sets of a single leg variation. So whether I want to emphasize a horizontal or a vertical vector, or whether I want to challenge myself or do something that's a little bit easier. So then I'll typically move from that into a bounding or a hopping variation. Or again, like one of my absolute go-tos is hop bound. So 1 continuous jump, staying on the same leg, but then on the next rep, you get to swap legs. Because even just that difference going from alternating between single leg jumps to continuously jumping off of that one leg, it's insane how much it scales the force production and the limb velocity demands of it. You don't need to take too much rest in between sets, just like a little bit, but like you are trying to use it to like work up a little bit of a sweat before you get into your first strength exercise.
So I hope you found that somewhat instructional in terms of just applying it for yourself, taking out that mysticism of it. I want to ask you a couple of questions. Number 1, how do you make sure that your own training is well-rounded? And number 2, do you think there's something missing that you're not necessarily doing? Let me know in the comment section down below. This is the one that's kind of stuck out for me over the past little while. I'd love to hear what yours are. Now, a lot of all of this plyometric stuff is how your feet interact with the ground, and that's why I've worn and used my shoe of choice, which is VivoBarefoot, for like the past 7 years. Just gives you so much more feel and feedback to provide your feet the freedom to move. As always, you can use the code here to save yourself some money if you want to grab yourself a pair, and it helps to support the channel as well. Right, let's jump into the upper body wins, because there are quite a few for this period of training. I had a big personal best improvement, the handstand push-up, managing to achieve 7.5, almost 8 repetitions freestanding, up from the previous best of like 5. I think in part due to that focus now on the deep handstand push-up stuff that was mentioned in the previous episode with Raphael, and just taking the skill out of it, focusing on strength, and hopefully that's going to translate into the planche. But I have to say that one still feels quite a way off. To be honest, I feel like this year has been a massive restructuring in just my attitude towards training, and kind of a realization with where I'm at in certain skills, and really what's required to achieve those big dreams that I have. As always, training is a massively humbling experience, a good reality check as to like actually where you are. Either way, I would actually say right now that I'm probably the strongest I've ever been, which is always a nice statement to say. It's been a little bit up and down the past couple of years with labrum tears and other injuries. Finally getting to that point where I'm like, okay, I'm hitting PBs that I've never achieved in the past. Ultimately, that's what training's for. It's to give you the confidence in what your body is capable of, in the things that you want to demand from it on a day-to-day basis or throughout life. As much as it is nice to hit PBs and do all of that sort of stuff, ultimately, if we can move well, if we're pain-free, that's the big stuff. As always, you can find the current program that I'm following right now is available in the description down below. Other than that, I'll catch you in the next episode. Have a strong week.